I think it's a role for you're not using
if we read it, okay, so you guys wind up, I guess, one more minute, and then... No. It's a long story.
This tree is the human mind, what capacity is
Okay, let's reconvoke.
Yeah.
said, tell me the story. I mean, I knew you spent a lot of time with your story. Then you read it afterwards.
I have outlined the story of these two. Yeah. Okay. I hate to tear you guys up.
Well, most things that are bad have too much power.
Yeah. Okay, so I think maybe how I'd like to just structure the next 45 minutes with the, I hope not too overly idealistic kavanah to get through the entire thing, is to give each group like, I would say like 3 minutes to talk a little bit, to share a little bit of what they talked about in regards to their section, and then maybe 3 minutes of all of us thinking about the things that the groups have raised, and sort of sequentially move through until we get to the end. Hopefully we'll figure some stuff out. Okay, so who is in group one? Great. Great, so I would love to just hear some of what you guys were talking about and some of what you all are thinking about in terms of the first section and its plot.
Can I try to summarize?
Yeah.
What does it mean to water trees? We thought that doing all the mitzvot, studying Torah, water trees. We were puzzled by B because we don't think he got more and more paralyzed. We think he got less and less paralyzed as the story goes on.
Ah.
The relationship between wilderness and city, we talked about that some in the story we already discussed. The wilderness is dangerous, but it's also where you can find your own path. The function of the diamond was sort of like water in the song. Somebody else from the group better help me with this one.
I think we forgot to do that.
Well, sort of, it gave him more power. He thought when he came off the wagon and he's crawling on the grass, he could at least crawl. And he was able to find that grass is very special to him. We have that beautiful quote that's in the biography, grass sings a song. We heard the song. And the diamond might just sort of be a metaphor for the song.
Beautiful.
I
Really.
think somebody in the group recently said that the diamond might be magic and esoteric knowledge.
Yeah.
Mm.
Deep hidden.
Nice. Love it. Okay, so I just want to go a little bit into the question of the stages of his paralysis. At the beginning of the story, it states explicitly that he can stand, but he could not walk.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the 6th line down. He could stand, but he could not walk. And then on the next page, 84, the last paragraph before the number 2, 5th line up from the bottom, his strength ebbed till he could not even stand, just crawl. And he ate the grass around him as long as he could reach out, and eat he ate. So it seems like, at least in this first section of the tale, as he's getting to the diamond, he begins not being able to walk, and then after he eats all the food that's in the cart, throws himself out of the cart, he lands onto the forest floor and starts crawling his way from patch of grass to patch of grass. And there's no, I mean, it doesn't explicitly say he's not sitting, but it seems like all he can do is crawl.
Well, when he was in the carriage, he was sitting.
In the carriage, yes.
Sitting and eating.
Great, great.
But in all of this, he's active.
In all of this, he's active. Say some more. He's
Well, he's the one who keeps trying. He's the one who decides he wants to work even though he can't walk. And he runs out of food, so he throws himself on the ground. He's the one who's persistent.
Great.
He eats grass.
Great, great. So how do you explain this idea of his paralysis?
Well, he's giving himself the power not to be paralyzed. What we learned from the biography is that Nachman thinks you have to do more than just stand there. You have to have a dialectical process of always forward and up. So crawling's better than just standing.
Also, we don't know how he got paralyzed initially, whether he was paralyzed from birth or as a child, but whatever his limitation that he was born with or had as a child, he kept trying to overcome it whatever way he could.
Doesn't make much difference how we got paralyzed, we just, we are.
Yeah, exactly, right. Right, and he kept trying to transcend whatever his limitation was.
Beautiful. Yeah.
This is also throwing himself off the coach onto the ground is a descent for a further asset. There's three of them in the story as you go along. This is the first of them.
Yes, amazing, Raging.
And he
Awesome.
finds power down it.
Yeah.
Power to ascend.
Because he knew that if he just stayed on the carriage without a driver or food, or, horses, he would basically starve to death for sure. So he just lurches off and figures, well, this is better than just staying there and dying of starvation.
Great. Great. Yeah.
I'm struck by this image of, and this may be kind of biased from the biography and Rabbi Nachman's struggle with the physicality, but this idea of descending to all fours and eating grass feels like a very sort of like non-human, like it's, maybe this is the idea of descent to like go so deep into like the animal world that he's basically living like an animal.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
I
he's
think that's really.
terrified.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
There he finds the diamond.
And there he finds the diamond. Yeah. No, I feel like that was a great articulation of what's going on. Yeah.
One seemed to me he was going from his limited, difficult life, approaching death and hallucinating, and this is his way of redefining, thinking through his life and how things could be.
Beautiful. So him finding this diamond and throwing himself onto the forest floor necessitates this kind of deep introspection. Yeah, great, beautiful. Okay, group number 2. What is in the first facet of this prism?
Come on. You nailed it, Joey. Come on, buddy.
So we're magically transported to this dialogue between the sun and the moon, and we didn't get far, just basically through the sun's Kadesh, which is that there's all these trees, and there's this particular tree that's very intricate and would solve all human troubles, but no one ever waters it. And I myself, I keep on looking down at this tree, and every time I look at it, I dry up the water. And so we fell into the rabbit hole of your second question. If this tree is the human mind, what capacity does the sun believe the human mind to have? We were thinking, so we entertained that question for a while and thought about the ways in which all this water being soaked up, like the tree, or the sun clearly thinks that the human mind has all of these wonderful capabilities, yada, 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 but those capabilities are unfulfilled, and humans are incapable of watering their own minds. We also thought about the possibility of the tree being Torah, and what it would mean for humans not to water Torah. That Torah is also this thing with immense potential that's and immense complexity that humans are not somehow taken care of.
Well, really, really, really beautiful.
Well, the last part I don't remember, but I agree.
No, that's beautiful. And there's also some sort of spinning of the prism going from human mind as then to Torah.
There are both ways. The Torah needs to be watered by us, or we are the tree, need to be watered by Torah.
Then we went on to
Both
the,
sets of associations are there in the tradition.
Yeah.
Then we went on to the what is the moon's concern thing.
Great.
And there's this fine line between what Reb Nachman wants us to understand and what we understand. And what we understood, or what I understood is the moon's concern was the moon's concern. It might sound overly simplistic, but as we lend it to everyday life, if your concern is one that has validity to it and is not steeped in temporal desire, it's important to understand that each person in their own seeking is driven by their own understanding of what is of concern to them. It might sound overly simplistic, but once you get involved in a community of a Chavurah, you realize that what drives that Chavurah is a sensitivity level among its members to each other's needs.
The other thing that we said about the tree is, while each individual aspect of the tree had a particular power and a special, importance, it was a tree. It was a whole. It was, in some sense, like a community. That every part of it was important, but it was nonetheless one thing. It wasn't many separate things.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Interconnected.
Beautiful,
Talking
really
about the
beautiful.
interconnectivity of, the branches and the fruit of the.
Really.
And you don't need much to have it happen. A couple of years ago, Rabbi Green taught us a course in, among other things, Zeitlin. And one of the things that blew us all away was when Zeitlin says, and now we have a community, there are tens of us.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's also a really stark comparison between the image that's focused on in the son's grievance, which is this image of a community and sort of interconnected, flourishing thing, versus the dispersion of these cold mountains on the surface, on the lunar surface.
And that's a very, I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand, but that's a very heightened spiritual awareness. That the minute we can tap into that is the communality that we all work towards. It's breathtaking when it does happen.
Great. So did you guys get into it all? Yeah, really beautiful, you guys.
That was Institute for Jewish Spirituality.
Awesome.
I'm thinking about the sun and the moon, the mind, the tree is the mind, and the tree is there, and the sun wants to water the tree, and then there's the moon. I wonder if that's the world of the imagination, the dangerous world of moonlit night.
Reason versus
And
imagination.
it's got all those demons. It's filled with demons.
Yeah, and shadow.
Demons in the shadows, kind of the shadows of the night. That's where the demons dwell. And that's the shadows of the imagination, and this struggle between Sechel and Medameh is somehow in that sun and moon.
And only shining in reflected light.
Sandra?
It just kind of related to that. I think it's interesting that the moon names and describes the beings that are like sucking its power, and the sun just says they, and it's kind of like unclear who should have watered it and like what the world that the sun is both concerned about and frustrated by is like made up of. Also like Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Ra, something like that.
Yeah, no, that feels really, really poignant. The sun is indicting the world for not watering the tree, and the moon is saying something about how its energy is being sucked away and it's being drained and paralyzed. Great. Mary Jane.
I was reading this a little differently. So first of all, the second descent is when he moves from grass, which was created on day 3, down to the sun and the moon, which was created on day 4. And the third descent is when he goes from the story of the sun down to the story of the moon. So mapped onto the Sephiroth, sun is Tiferet, and the sun can't water it's not who that has to water, it's the people.
Mhm.
So the son is in that thing, it's people who have to do it. And each time he makes one of these descents, he then gets more power. He gets the power after the second descent to overcome the robbers, and he gets the power after the third descent to overcome the demons.
Really beautiful. Really beautiful. Okay, so I would say let's move on to the third group to talk a little bit about what this path that the sun tells the moon about is, and what ends up happening once the Chiger gets to the path.
Well, why don't you tell the story? You said that well.
Should we say what happened?
Yeah.
So, the Chiger transports to this place where there's all these different types of paths with different dusts on them, and each dust has it's either like tzaddik dust that turns into a tzaddik, or like evil dust that turns into an evil person, or crazy dust that turns into a crazy person. So he transports there and walks on the path of leg power dust, and heals his legs, and then gathers up the righteous dust and the madman dust, and walks over to the town where the people in Mountain live, and goes up to and shakes up the two dusts together and pours them on the path, and goes up to a tree and watches to see what will happen when the robbers walk on the dust. So the robbers go and walk on the dust, and first the righteous dust kicks in, and they all repent and recognize all the horrible things they did, and then the madman dust kicks in, and they all blame each other and kill each other.
Yeah.
And all these droves of robbers keep on coming in and repenting and killing each other until there's just the head of the robbers left, and he comes in, and the Chiger takes away the madman dust and just the righteous dust, and he just repents, and he says, what can I do to repent? And the protagonist says, first you have to give back everything you stole, and then you have to go into the town and say, I'm the guy who killed other people and stole these things. So he goes into the town, confesses, and then the townspeople came.
Yeah, that was an excellent recounting of the story. Yeah.
So much for repentance.
Yeah, I mean the ending is difficult. Nachman takes us into a difficult place with the ending, but one of the things that I'm really curious to hear what everybody has to say and what your group said about it is, what do we make of these descriptions of what madness is and what justice is?
Oh, we were struggling with it, but we realized it from group two. We think that the madness, first of all, the justice got everyone to realize their error, and we are all one in this error. The madness was disconnection, lack of loss of community, so they could get it.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And can you just say a little bit more about what ended up fracturing that community? What did the madness do that resulted in the fragmentation of?
Great question, I'll let them answer.
The injustice, they took it inside upon themselves to be responsible, and the madmen put it outside on the other person to
Yeah.
do something to strike out.
Yeah. Akiva used the word blame. So, like sort of a political discourse in which people are blaming each other for all of their mistakes is, according to Nachman, madness. That's being powered by a sort of a hermeneutic of madness.
I think it's funny. This magic dust turns these Ganonim into Meshuggah Tzaddikim. I mean, he must be thinking about some Tzaddikim he knows who are acting Meshuggah. And where did these Meshuggah Tzaddikim come from? I think it's a riot. And it's serious. I mean, it's serious at the same time, but there is some kind of a sort of comic fantasy in this that's going on here. He has that in a number of the stories. You just don't miss the sort of funny side of it.
Nice.
Sort of funny side of his imagination.
Nice. Genevieve.
I think like maybe related to your question is this way that like these two elements of creation are being played with, like the dust of creation and how humans can meddle with that and create their own creations within what they're created with the dust. And also this water. Like I I'm seeing this interesting play between like the ed in creation, water that comes up on its own, and then the water that the humans can do. And I think there's like this element of like justice between like humans and justice on a larger scale between these two elemental places, pieces.
That's really cute. Yeah. And just for people that don't, that in the story of creation, there's this ed, this like a subterranean stream that waters the garden before humans are there to water it.
And then, and humans, it was, you know, like, God was like waiting for humans to water, right?
Beautiful. Josh.
We were wondering where exactly the madness kicks in and how it presents itself, because they end up, they first repent, like we said, right? And when the dust of the madman kicks in, they ultimately end up doing the very thing that they're blaming each other for, right? They end up killing each other, and that's what they're arguing about in the
Yeah.
It's like, we did all this stuff because of you.
Yeah.
It's still,
Yeah.
right. It's
Yeah.
this bizarre cycle of, where exactly did it really start?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Okay, so before moving into the fourth group, I just want to quickly return to your question about the first psalm and how it seems like Nachman is reading it and why I was reading it as walking, standing, sitting. Those things can all happen if you're grounded in negative physicality. Like, you have to, these, as long as you're grounded in something, you're going to be able to act in the world. And there are some things that are bad to be grounded in, like sort of lens through which everyone is at fault and you're not at fault. But that lens or that framework through which to understand life is still going to be effective at enabling you to live. And I think that that's what this path image is saying. Like, these different frameworks through which to understand life are necessary to help us live life, but certain frameworks are problematic, and certain frameworks, like justice, are more beneficial. And it seems like in some ways the first half of the story in which the protagonist is struggling with paralysis, the issue is his not really having a sense of what framework through which to understand life. He doesn't really know what kind of reality, what vision of reality he should ground himself in. And these first two facets of the diamond help him introspect enough to develop a sense that he wants justice. He wants to be someone who's grounding himself in just action.
Another interesting thing that Josh pointed out was that the translation says Sadiq, and you use justice, and the correlation that that justice makes people wise, which is interesting.
Awesome. I mean, also, tzaddik is from the shorish that means justice in Hebrew. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
I want to
Okay.
go back for a second to Genevieve's comment, because I'm thinking more about Genesis 2. That no plant in the earth had yet grown, because there was no person to water it. There was no person. And Adam, we are sent into the world to make the tree grow. And God creates humans in order to water his trees. And the old father who sends at the beginning, the old father who sends us into the world with this one thing: do whatever you want, make whatever you want, but water the trees. That somehow is more Eden imagery than I had realized until you said it. That's sort of the way the whole story is set up, but that's the way the Torah's whole story is set up. Water the trees. Adam, water the trees.
I think too, like in the story, we like see the ways that like there's an abuse of the power that we have, and how like it's true that human power is needed, but it's also an illusion.
Because in the end, like, the Ed wins. Like, it's all, I don't know, humans are affecting earthquakes and greater things, but then, like, it's necessary, but it's also, like, an illusion of necessity, isn't it? Well, maybe it's not. That's sort of depressing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's something problematic about the passivity that this story seems to champion. Like, as long as you're just sort of saturating yourself in Torah, tree will be watered. But okay, we'll get there. Yeah. Okay, so group 4.
Boy,
Yeah.
we struggled through this one a little bit, trying to kind of map out, because this is where I think this political dimension gets really intense, and we're trying to map out kind of what is this political situation. So we go down and we meet, I might get some of these details wrong, but we go down and we meet this demon family who tells this story about how their son and his friend had some land, and then the ruler who seemed to sort of own that land wanted to do something there that they didn't like, wanted to build up something there, and so they lashed out at that ruler and took power back from him. And I think we were really struck.
Then they gave it to somebody who had no power.
Right.
They don't tell us who
Right.
that is in the story, but there's somebody. Who
We
doesn't-
learn at the end of the story.
I think we were sort of really struck by the sympathetic portrayal of the demon family, and sort of we're trying to bounce around some ideas with that. I kept having things conjuring into my mind from Jewish stories, and kept kind of seeing the demons as Israel in a way, or as, and now as I think about it more, I'm struggling with this question of who in this story is really in the right. And I had a couple of different things that kind of came into different stories, older and newer and real and more mythical, that came into my mind. Don't map out perfectly, but they kept sort of popping back up. And one being like our own, the Israel's own exiles, like historical exiles. The story of Naboth's vineyard in Kings. And then also, kind of our current political, like colonial struggles throughout the world over the last couple hundred years. And I think that one of the things that really, when I think about it, that's really fascinating me with this is how I'm having so much trouble mapping out who is who